What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, to the holotables, and welcome back. You know it's me, your bald boy Scribble, doing his 15th video of the day or something there or thereabouts. Conquest, eh? If you haven't seen Sector 1 feat guides, go ahead and check it out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you need help with Sector 1, got a good video on that. We're doing Sector 2 right now, and I'm going to go to 3 as quickly as possible so that I can help you get the information that you guys need and deserve. Let's roll, baby. Alrighty, Sector 2, that's where we're at right now. Feats that we need to be doing. We've got Not Buffed Up, which is attempt to inflict buff immunity 40 times. Reeling Blow, attempt to inflict daze 40 times. Unguarded, win 10 battles with no tanks in your squad. And Rescue Mission, win 10 battles with Omega Fugitive and Batcher surviving. So, these two feats, super easy, super doable. We can cheese that out. Win 10 battles with no tanks and Omega Fugitive and Batcher. You can double dip on a lot of this depending on how strong your roster is, okay? Before we begin going with the feats, I want to have some level of clarification before we begin. There is a new data disk within this version of Conquest, and that one is called the Feat Training Droids, okay? This data disk over here you get from defeating 250 enemies on the challenge path. That is one of our global or event-based feats. You can see it over here somewhere. Where is it? But there we are. Defeat 250 enemies on the golden challenge path gives you the Feat Training Droids. Now, this data disk here is very useful for farming buffs and debuff feats, okay? So what it does is, at the start of battle, enemies are inflicted with a tenacity down that they can never cleanse. They also are completely immune to tenacity up. This basically means your buffs are going to land 85% of the time because there is a 15% base chance that people will resist a debuff even if they've got, negative 1,000,000 tenacity. All right? Not only that, whilst this data disk is equipped, you cannot defeat any enemies while the enemy leader is alive. That includes the enemy leader. However, you can use instant kills to defeat units. If you insta-kill the leader, everybody else can die normally, alright? Other than that, you can insta-kill any unit. This is really, really useful. It is a 1-dot data disk. However, I understand that some people will not want to apply this on a permanent basis because it will be a pain to remove it later. So what I will recommend people do is get this data disk and speed through all of Conquest to the end. Don't worry about feats that require buffs and debuffs so much. And then once you have finished Sector 5, equip this data disk and use it to go back and clean up the feats that you need to get done. Okay? Failing that, if you've got the Pass Plus and you can swap data disks in and out freely, just go ahead and throw it on whenever you want it, okay? So with that in mind, what I'm going to try and do for you today is I'm going to try and show you how to get these feats done with the data disk and how to do it without the data disk so that people have got an option for both. I hope that is useful to you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so Sector 2. We're going to start off with the buff immunity and the daze. Best place, in my opinion, to do this is going to be the Midsector boss, but you can do it on any unit as you are progressing. There are a couple of ways to get daze. You can cheese it in against an Empire team. For example, something like this, or an Imperial Trooper team. If you've got a Rogue One Adrad comp, that will constantly apply daze to the enemy team if they are Empire and they gain bonus turn meter. So if you've got Adrad and you have an Empire node, particularly Imperial Troopers, you will most likely get all of your dazes in one battle without even having to try. I will show you a clip of that in a second, but first I'm going to go for how to get buff immunity, how to get daze in one battle against this node. First and foremost, I will show you how I do this with the Feat Training Droids data disk, okay? So let's go over that. So data disk set up for something like this. I'm using assertive command, which basically means whenever we use a basic, we're going to call a random ally to assist, and you pair that with perseverance, and that causes them to assist again. Useful for these sorts of feats, but not required. If you've got something like unstable decelerator to remove turn meter from the enemy, very useful. Zealous ambition isn't really doing anything in this team. It's doing a little bit, not very much. And of course, we are using the Feat Training Droids data disk for this one, so the enemies can't die unless we insta-kill. So whilst we're doing that feat, we are actually getting 3 feats in one here, because we are doing win without using any Jedi, Sith, or unaligned Force users, and we are getting buff immunity, and we are getting ourselves that daze. Okay, so a 3 feat in one jobby. Let's go for it. So first and foremost, this is the team, full bounty hunter team. We are using Bosk, Boba Fett, Grief Karga, OG Mando, and Rebel Officer Leia Organa. She actually applies a buff immunity on her basic. So the precept behind this is quite simple. Bo-Katan's team, not particularly fast. We just want to try and hit contracts straight away. All those specials coming in. I think we might have Booming Voice on at the minute, but you shouldn't need that per se. Focus in on whoever's got that blue target. Should be Bo-Katan Mandalore, as that will give you your contract. Once you have hit contract, vitally important that you start yeeting out units, okay? Using the instant delete. Every time we are doing these assists, Grief Karga over there will daze on his basic, which is great, and I'm just systematically clearing out units over here. And of course, Rolo, whenever she attacks, she is going to apply buff immunity as well. Now don't forget, if she gets called to assist, she will get called to assist again, so that's going to be 2 instances of buff immunity, and we can drag this out for as long as we want, because we can only kill the enemy if we instantly defeat them, which is with our Mando special, basically his second special. Now we could put this on full auto if we wanted to, but I do think it is a little bit of a risk. I also think that if you are doing this, you should probably get rid of OG Bo, not Bo-Katan Mandalore, Bo-Katan Kryze at the start, because she can do that daze, and that daze can lock down your Rolo a little bit there, and that just, it doesn't stop things, it just means it takes a little bit longer to get through, okay? So once you get it down to just 1 unit, you just have to kind of manually play it. It shouldn't take too long, because you can just call in Grief, and that's going to get him to double tap. And each time he does that, it's going to attempt to apply daze, essentially. And same for Rolo. Whenever she uses a basic, she's going to attempt to apply daze. So essentially, I'm just choosing to get rid of all of the units, apart from Bo Mando, because as long as she is alive, the enemy units can't die properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it until it's just Bo Mando on the field, and then it's just a case of, let's just do basics. Let's just do basics on Bo Mando for as long as you can stomach, essentially. If you would take out someone like Boba Fett and maybe throw in someone like Zam Wessel, you would be able to also stun Bo Mando there very reliably, and that's probably a better fifth than using Boba Fett, essentially, because that way we can kind of just go full auto and not worry about it. Not full auto, auto basic to get our feats, and we should be able to keep her stun locked for the entirety. If you've got unstable decelerator, you'll constantly be stripping away that little bit of turn meter as well. So this way, you can just do this for as long as you can stomach, basically. Long as you can stomach, you should get all the feats, and when you're ready to destroy her, you just use Mando's insta-kill, and that's the end of the round. You'll get 3 feats in 1. You can see over here, I got to about 3.5 minutes, and I was absolutely fed up at this point. I was like, okay, yeah, no, I've had enough of doing this particular battle. Let's go ahead, close it out, get the insta-kill, easy victory there, nice and happy, everybody's hunky-dory, and we get ourselves the Follow My Lead and the Hokey Religions. Now, I'd already done the daze and the buff immunity. We've got the one there for Booming Voice. Again, you don't need Booming Voice per se, but we could do the exact same battle, essentially. We can do the same battle without using the feat data disk. Let me show you. This time, instead, we are going to go in with a CLS team. However, you do drop out 2 units. You do drop out 1 unit, sorry. I'm dropping out Chupio over here so that I can throw in Zeb. Zeb applies buff immunity, or sorry, not buff immunity, daze on his basic, okay? So what I'm trying to do here, get rid of all of the ads. I would recommend going after Bo-Katan Kryze. Like I said, Bo-Katan Kryze with her daze is really annoying, right? It's really annoying. You don't want her to daze your team. She has got counterattack opportunities. You can see the daze over there on Zeb coming in clutch as well. So I'm just trying to stun everybody, get everybody defeated, basically. Hopefully don't lose to Mando. Now make sure you do not go all in on Mando, okay? We want to save Mando till more or less the end. I'm focusing here on units. We're going to get rid of Paz right now. He's going to do an AoE, and it's going to be a little bit irritating, but he should hopefully not defeat any units. Once you get to this, you can more or less just hit full auto at this point and just leave it go. It will take you an age to kill Bo-Katan Mandalore unless you've got something on your data disk that is ramping your offense. I'm not using any ramping offense data disks over here. It's just that assertive command and the unstable decelerator. They're essentially never taking a turn because we are constantly gaining far too much turn meter. Apart from Zeb, like I said, he got dazed because we didn't control that Bo-Katan Kryze quickly enough. We go through some of Bo-Katan Mandalore's health, but she does take a long time. What we're waiting for is this. We're waiting to get that Bo Mando really nice and low. She's going to trigger a bonus turn or 100% turn meter from Bam. It might take him some time to trigger, and he will put damage immunity on himself. Once he's got that damage immunity, we are locked in. Target down Bo, hit full auto, walk away. Okay, you're going to sacrifice the victory here. You're not going to win, but you are 100% going to get all your dazes and all of your buff immunities. CLS is applying buff immunity on his first special, sorry. Whenever he does that special, it's going to be buff immunity. Bam will never take a turn again because we are constantly stripping away his turn meter with C-3PO, with Han Solo, with CLS. And we've got reduced cooldowns thanks to C-3PO's ability to reduce our cooldowns with his translation, okay? Zeb is constantly going to apply the daze whenever he uses a basic, and because we are assisting quite frequently, and every time we do a basic we also call assists, it's just going to turn into an endless loop of us wailing on Bam until we time out. So just hit full auto and walk away, have a cup of tea, maybe have a word with the missus, just see what's going on, what's for dinner, maybe have a nice beer, I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting here, I'm kind of thinking about food and drink. But there we go. Yeah, and this is going to be a no-brainer. The other good thing about this is it is 10 minutes long, so you can leave it for a long time to get these feats done. Kind of brainless, kind of easy, but if it works, right? Alright, so I wanted to show you also the Adrad situation with daze. If you take Adrad against Empire units that gain turn meter, so Palps, Lead, or Imperial Troopers, whenever they're gaining turn meter, as you can see, they're getting themselves dazed. And because they always gain turn meter in this setup, it's relatively straightforward to just take in some sort of Rogue One team and have a good time. Now you can do this as you're going through the sector. Just have Jin and K2SO and Cassian maybe, and potentially, or drop Cassian as well, potentially throw in Omega and Batcher, because you need to get wins with those two surviving. It's a little bit risky unless you've got high levels of survivability. Because I've got Zealous Ambition in this comp, I know that Adrad himself can just yeet out the board whenever I choose to. I'm choosing to drag out this battle by only doing basics with Adrad, but if I used his second special, we would clear the board. So this Empire team is not an ideal one. You really want to be going up against Imperial Troopers because they gain a lot more turn meter. There's more units there because they got all that revive and survive capabilities over here. And don't forget, Jin's first special, that can also revive our fallen units, and so can Hope from Adrad. So I think what I do here is I think I've proven my point around the dazes coming in here, which is all very well and good. So let's go ahead and finish up the battle as soon as we get Hope, and we'll get that revive on our fallen comrades. We just pass it over here, 100%, and then I can just drop the bomb and be like, what? Everybody comes back to life. So no stars lost there, and we get to get ourselves dazed nice and easy. So use that one if you can't be bothered to use the Midsector boss feat. So we also need to do 20 battles with no tanks. However, there is also a global feat where we need to get 20 battles with Keller and Beck. So I'm going to mix and match this, try to get Keller and Beck with no tanks. Galactic Republic, JMK, Keller and Beck, Cat, Snips, Padme, no tanks in that team, and you'll get Keller and Beck victories. Similarly, you can take a Keller and Beck team, just go with something like Jedi Knight Anakin and Cam and Barriss and Shaq, no tanks there. Or you could do Queen Amidala, similarly speaking, throwing Keller and Beck into the team. Padawan Obi-Wan with his Omicron will also help you get stuff like buff immunity and daze, so you're double dipping on feats there. And you could throw in, Master Qui-Gon Jinn and a +1 Galactic Republic Jedi. Doesn't even need to be a Jedi, just make sure you're not taking in a tank. The decoy will not count as a tank. Failing that, CLS. Standard CLS, no tanks, very reliable team in Conquest. We also need to get 20 wins with Bounty Hunters. You'll be able to do it if you got Jabba the Hutt fairly easily. Just drop out Kasantan and keep it full Hutt Cartel for the victories over there. Should be able to clear through relatively easily. Failing that, Imperial Troopers. Drop out a unit, throw in Wat Tambor. On Wat Tambor's first turn, do not apply a tech. Use your basic, it passes you heal up. 2 stacks of heal up to the entire team, which should give you enough turn meter to outpace your opponent. You won't be able to bleed this one down in stamina, but you will be able to get a couple of victories. Failing that, the catch-all. Use Bane with a high level or high relic Sith support, as long as it's not a tank, and you'll clear through. Very easy. He's Bane. He's going to get victories. Now, not only that, we also need to get 10 wins with Omega and Batcher surviving. They must survive. So if you have good investment in your Bad Batch, you can go ahead, use a standard new batch team, drop out Wrecker unfortunately because we want to do it with no tanks, and throw in OG Omega or something like that. Failing that, JML, you can use him with Wat Tambor to force the tank tech onto JML, use a good Jedi like Cal Kestis to support Omega and Batcher for the survivability. Same thing, Maul DeLoreans, use Maul with Canderous and Watt, Maul at the start can put something like weapons tech on Maul. That will give him a bonus turn or 100% turn meter thanks to him starting with Frenzy. Use your first special. The damage will then trigger enough turn meter on Canderous Ordo to take a turn. Use his special, triggers the Frenzy on Maul again, and then you've essentially got 5 turns of using Seething Rage to clear out the enemy team as quickly as possible. Obviously, this one is dependent on having offense stacking data discs, alright? With those two as the extras. You can do a similar thing with Bam, Omega, and Batcher as well, using Bam Hand Chewie. Lots of turn meter generated in this team, so long as you've got something like Amplify Agony and Volatile Accelerator and that sort of data disc setup, you know, weak spot, that sort of thing to ramp up your offense, this is a very good turn meter trained team that should be able to do good damage. And finally, if you're using a Zealous Ambition setup, you can go for the Adrad Jin K2SO comp, because, as you can see, using Zealous Ambition with Adrad, 1 AoE, he'll wipe the board. And pretty much everybody for at least 70% stamina. So give those a try, and let me know how you get on. Mid-sector boss feats then. We've already shown the unaligned Force user teams. If you have struggles with using Bounty Hunters to get it done, you really shouldn't. Bounty Hunters are very solid against that sort of thing. You can also use Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt will smash it. Failing that, you could also use something like a GG team. Now, I'm not going to show you full squad of Spectre, because if you've got full squad of Spectre, it probably means that you've got Glat, and you won't need any help there. End sector boss, win with a full squad of Old Republic, or win with 5 surviving. Gas will do perfectly well, but you can throw it in with JMK, and that will still work, or you could put a Queen Amidala team in. Or should we show that now? I guess we could show that now. Yeah, let's do that. We'll do Queen Amidala, Galactic Republic. Okay, actually, my Queen Amidala is going to have Padawan Obi-Wan's Omicron, so that might skew the results just a little bit. Maybe we just go in with a standard 5-0 first team. You just need your 5s to survive the battle. I'm hoping I don't have the feat data disc equipped. I don't think I do. So Gas should do typically quite well against Moff Gideon, thanks to the fact that they gain a lot of buffs, and a lot of buffs usually in a Gas team means lots of ramping offense. I like to apply the turret over to 5s, because 5s usually takes the most additional turns out of everybody. We're absolutely never going to land any sort of critical hits on this team, but that's okay. Gas is also providing us some dazes if you haven't already got it done by this point. Slap, slap, slap goes the Gas man. Lots of counterattacks coming in. Love to see it. Just focus down Moff Gideon at the start. There's no real reason to go after anybody else. And then I would go after Death Trooper because he's annoying. And then we'll go after Range Trooper because he sucks. And then take out Scout Trooper, who hides. Scared Scout Trooper. Alright. Very, very easy with a Gas team. I'll show you my data disc setup for this one in just a moment. They also can't revive. Normally they would, I think. So, there we go. We got the victory there. Nice and easy. 5 survived. Gas didn't even drop. So, easy peasy. So, over here I had Assertive Command, Zealous Ambition, which does do a lot to help Echo do a lot of damage because he's a support unit. Perseverance, so if we attack out of turn, we will attack again. And then Unstable Decelerator there, controlling turn meter. Easy peasy. So the other one is win with a full squad of Old Republic. I'll go ahead and show you. I think I've got this recorded. Here we are. It looks like I'm using Assertive Command, Zealous Ambition, Amplified Agony, Zealous Ambition, and Perseverance over here. Team comp that I decided to use, Jedi Knight Revan with Mission and Zalbar. I think we actually just go all in, full focus on DTMG. There's no real reason to attack anybody else, like I said. Just take him out of the way as soon as possible. Maybe if you are struggling, potentially go after Death Trooper first. He is annoying, but I chose to just focus down Moff Gideon at the start, and I found it works quite well. Zealous Ambition is providing a lot of extra damage output from Jolie as well, but also Bastila Shan. She is a support type character, so those two will be doing massive amounts of increased damage with the Zealous Ambition setup. You see my Bastila over there is hitting for over 100,000 damage, which is rather tasty. Zalbar doing good work, keeping the threat off units like Jedi Knight Revan. All that Assertive Command and Perseverance combo is really cool. You join them up together and it's like basics. I'm going to call random people to assist. If I assist, I'm going to attack again. It's very useful stuff. Now I would get rid of Death Trooper. Like I said, he can increase your cooldowns, he can put Death Mark, he can put daze, he can stun. It's all really annoying stuff. and then Range Trooper can come afterwards, and Stormtrooper and Scout Trooper are just finishing up the show. I didn't find this one particularly difficult, but I do have a heavy amount of relic investment in my roster overall. It's mostly about the data disk setup though. Righto, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Sector 2. I hope this video was useful to you. If it was, please let me know in the comments section down below. Give me some advice on additional feats, and let me know if you want me to continue using this, how to do it with a feat data disk and how to do it without, because that's going to color the rest of the videos. Sweet. I'll see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.